Hi, everybody. Welcome to the episode. Welcome to the Black Tower. Welcome to the Tainty Funness. Today we are going to be talking about one of our overarching sort of series, Black Tower series, our episodic series. I'm still waking up. One of the things that we've done a lot of, I'm trying to be a little bit vague because I don't necessarily want to say what's going on until we throw on the spoiler warning. But you guys will recognize this series.
A scheduled release.
Yeah, exactly. We don't tell you when they're coming up; they just come up. But we do them relatively frequently. You guys will recognize it when it starts.
Unwanted erections, adolescence all over again.
Yep,
and the rest of the days of a man's life.
Until he hits a certain age, and then even when he wants them, he can't have them.
We're gonna call these like Black Tower Morningwood.
I like it.
You don't know why it's there. You didn't ask for it to be there. You didn't plan on it, but bam, it's there. You don't realize it till you roll over and almost break it in half.
Don't. It's true. Adolescents don't need to adult. But it is one of our things in an ongoing series. You may even sort of be expecting this one a little bit because we did the other, the first half, and I'm putting that in quotes on purpose, of what this series is. We've been doing a number of them for the past, 2 months. But before we actually say what it is, Andrew, can you throw on some protection and make 100% sure that all of these lovely people are protected from horrible reveals that would ruin everything for them?
Of course, because safety is our responsibility. So, ladies and gentlemen, this episode may or may not contain spoilers from the first 3 books of Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time series. That is, of course, Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, and Le Dragon Reborn. Except Le is actually because I live in America and we don't call it anything Le except ironically and Mimi. I wasn't making, that's like meme with a Y on the end, not saying meme. Anyway, words. It may go beyond that, but if it goes beyond where we expect this episode to kind of get a good conclusion point, we'll throw that out there then. But so you'll be safe if you've only read the first 3 books of Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time series. But you have to have read all of the first 3 books because it'll fully spoil stuff from the entire series. Because we can't talk about what we're talking about without spoiling pretty much like 95 being generous % of the series.
Correct.
So with that, we did an exhaustive series on Elayne.
Mm-hmm.
We hit a 2-parter on Min.
Mm-hmm.
And it wound up being a 3-parter on Aviendha because you guys, the listeners, voted on Twitter and kind of a little bit in the Discord about wanting us to do a more kind of philosophic episode on Aviendha's visions in Ruidion. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 10 episodes on what is, air quotes again, 1/2 of this kind of episodic thing. You know, you've seen us do it with Elayne and you've heard Elayne, Nynaeve and Lan, or Lawn, whatever you want to say, and many other couples. And so, of course, with the 3 most badass women in the series, I mean, you can argue some of them, I guess, depending on merits. We're ready for the other part.
Indeed.
And what is the other part, Daniel? Because it's not like it's abundantly obvious.
Well, the other part that we are doing today and finally getting to after, as you said, talking about the 3 dragon women is the Dragon Reborn. Randomus Althoramus.
Yeah.
It's his full name, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is one of those episodes, like, you know everybody's going to talk about Rand. He is the main character, as much as many of the times we like to say that the series has multiple main characters. I mean,
No,
it
and,
has
and
an
it
overall
is.
main set
It's
of characters.
definitely an ensemble cast. It's definitely a thing where we've said it so many times, and we definitely think that it is true with all of our hearts that this story doesn't work if you take out any of those characters. But at the same time, probably the biggest piece of it is this character.
Mm-hmm.
The story is centered around this person, and everything that they get from others is absolutely help in their journey for doing stuff. And everybody else has their own stories. Everybody else has, incredibly important stuff. But at the same time,
I think like every character is going to have people that it speaks to more, that they enjoy and like more. A lot of stuff, not all of it, but the largest portion of stuff from what the conversations I've had and I've seen that makes people dislike Rand in the series happens after our spoiler warning.
Truth.
But there's plenty of people that think a lot of what we see even happening and what we're getting into with under the current umbrella of the spoiler warning and beyond is a lot of what makes him a liked and relatable character for a lot of people, myself included. And it'll probably be next episode before I can get more into that, if I remember to even make that comparison.
Truth.
But yeah, so old Rand. So as far as we know, Rand, even though he appears drastically different in literal appearance than the rest of the citizens of Amon's Field down in the Two Rivers, he was born there, he's grown up there, he's lived there, all this fun stuff. His mother, Cariathor, died early on from sickness, not from childbirth, if I remember correctly. Because it was shortly, he wasn't super young, but he wasn't very old when she died.
He technically does remember her, and he wouldn't remember her if she died in childbirth. But he was very young, and he doesn't remember a lot about her. Like, he remembers her face and like her kindness and whatnot, but like not much more about her because she did die when he was really young.
He remembers enough about her to know her as mom, to see her as mom, and to love her as mom.
Mm-hmm. Exactly,
but not so much that he's able to recite a ton about a character other than just what I would think a lot of children would remember about even a half decent mother. Not saying that she wasn't a good mom or anything like that.
She just didn't have that much of a chance.
So Rand is described as a handsome, very tall, kind of light-skinned individual with blue-gray eyes.
She died when he was 5.
Yeah.
Just to actually say specific.
He has blue-gray eyes and dark reddish kind of unruly hair that generally kind of just hangs right past his ears or so. So not super long, but not super short. He's pretty tall, broad-shouldered, though much more slender and not as heavily built as Perrin is.
Correct.
But he's by no means weak. He's still very strong from years of farm work and archery training. As is common to Amon's Field. And specifically because him and his dad and he make an entire living working their farm and selling goods from their farm. Typically, some good apple brandy, right? Apple brandy and cider.
Yes.
So
as well as they live outside of town. In Two Rivers Pot. I don't think they actually make that much of the.
I don't think they're tobacco farmers.
Tobacco.
They might be. They probably have at least some to grow their own, I would imagine.
Exactly.
Or Tam does.
I imagine that they have a little bit, but not a ton. They are not the tobacco farmers. But at the same time, as I was about to say, very importantly, they actually live about half a day's journey outside of the actual main village of Emond's Field. And therefore, they are actually incredibly self-sufficient. subsistent, and they do have basically everything that they would need on the farm, and they really only ever have to go to town for gatherings, holidays, for Tam to actually go and sell his apple brandy and cider and, any other particularly good things that they have. I'm sure that they sell at least some of their wool in town, things like that. But pretty much everything they need to be self-sustainable is on the farm, because they actually live far enough outside of Emmons Field that they don't just travel in there for kind of no reason.
Yeah. And so when the series starts in chapter 1, what is it? Like is it the or an empty road?
An empty road.
An empty road. The series starts through Rand's point of view. It's coming up on Winter Night, which we find out is a festival held in Amon's Field to celebrate what's supposed to be the ending of winter and the beginning of spring. But we find out that it's very much not going that way, that it's still super, super winter. It's super, super windy. There's snow everywhere. The wolves have been going crazy and killing and eating people and all this other stuff. And Rand's just thinking about how the wind sucks and how his dad is strong because he seems to hardly be bothered, and all this other, I love my dad because he seems like a badass. I mean, that's not the only reason, but and then we get to see Rand shit his trousers because he notices an ominous Nazgul-esque figure in the woods. That at first he's like, oh, that's kind of strange. And then he notices that though his cloak is beating his thighs to death, this ominous figure's cloak isn't even moving in the wind. Mm-hmm. And I think he even he already has an arrow notch because of the wolves, right? Because of course wolves are killing everybody. And now he's like tightening his grip and pulling back slightly on it and all this shit. And Tam's like, what's the matter, boy? Pay attention to the road or whatever. Because I think he bumps into Bella or the wagon or something like that. It's also where we meet Bella. So we meet Bella, Tam, Rand, and
so he trips and he pulls down on Bella's
harness
bit,
or something?
Her bit. And she stops because he startles her basically, and that's what perks Tam up, and he's like, is everything okay?
Yeah.
And Rand, trying to be strong like his dad and whatnot, I was like, yeah, I'm fine, I just saw some, who cares? You didn't see anything, did you? And he's like, nah, I didn't see anything. And he's like, cool, that was weird.
The winter's playing games with your head, boy. Pay attention. Boy. But so they continue on.
It is unfortunate that we don't just have Kratos playing Tam Althor.
Dude, that would actually be dope. Just at least a voiceover. Don't care. Don't care what it is.
Yeah, no, it can be a Darth Vader situation where somebody does the action and then somebody else does the words.
Yeah. But so
just ADR the whole thing.
Yeah, that works. So they continue on, and then we finally get into Amon's Field, and this is where we get introduced, albeit briefly, to Nynaeve, a little bit more into Egwene. We meet, not in order, of course, because the first one we meet is Bran Alvear and Matt.
Well,
and the Coffin.
Well, actually, the first one that we meet is Sen Bui.
Oh, yeah. So Sen Bui. Yeah, so you meet the kind of generic characters there until you start getting into characters that become bigger later on, of course, like Matt and Nynaeve and Egwene.
Yes.
And, it's kind of the typical kind of just starting a series, meeting the people from the old home front kind of intro.
Exposition, introductions. Yeah. No,
everything's
totally
calm here except for Matt and his honey badgers and taking honey cakes and getting his ass beat for it. Other than the very long winter and the wolves, that everybody's like, yeah, this is strange. This doesn't normally happen.
But they keep on saying, here in the Two Rivers, though, we're hardy folk. So it doesn't matter whether this is a long winter. It doesn't matter whether this is weird. We will carry on.
2 rivers strong.
2 rivers strong.
But kind of all of this other random stuff kind of gets forgotten when The peddler, Patton Fane, shows up. And they all start asking about news, like, is winter breaking anywhere? Is also, he's like, oh, there's war brewing here and war brewing there, and false dragons here and there, and all this other. And you're kind of like, okay, this world's a little crazy. What the fuck is a false dragon? But all right, cool. And then you find out that there's a Gleeman already in town, that he's already in the Wine Spring Inn. And then there's two other mysterious strangers, and everybody's remarking on it because it's not normal to have this many strangers in our neck of the woods. All these outsiders, get them out of here. It's not right, I say.
Yes, as we stated, basically, this is all of the plot exposition of, hey, just to let you know, we're going to go ahead and tell you all of the... Well, sorry. The beginning of a story always happens because something's different. Because they're not going to start the story when Rand is 10 years old and everything's literally just normal from the time that he's 10 years old until the time that he's 18 years old.
A little too much exposition, I think.
Exactly. So they start at the point where Rand is 18 to 20, depending, on winter night, where everything's weird already in the morning of it, and then goes horribly and crazily wrong.
Yeah.
Because their trip to Emmons Field is, again, they see a Black Rider. Well, Rand sees a Black Rider.
And finds out that a bunch of other kids have as well.
Yes. Well, he hears that Matt and Perrin have.
Yeah.
They do not actually know yet that there are two other boys who do. They find that out later. I think Moraine actually tells them.
Probably.
Because she definitely is going around finding out date of births on people and weird shit. But yeah, anyway, they go to town. It's actually a very, very short trip of just dropping this stuff off, because they're not actually going to be present for the holiday of Winter Night. They are actually going home. And so Tam tells him, you're right. It is absolutely Tam. Because Tam actually is looking around in town and finds out who else has seen it, because now he's actually a little spooked because he does believe his son, which is actually one of the...
I think that prompts them to have their village council meeting, and which is kind of what pawns off the unloading of the cask of brandy and cider almost entirely onto Rand and Matt.
Yes, I believe that is true. But yeah, it's actually one of the really nice moments, in my humble opinion, of the story, where, like, yeah, it's definitely a story where you find out things about Rand and all of this different stuff. That, his mother's dead, and his dad, even into this, his dad has some weird things going on. I know that we haven't gotten to the events, but his dad has some weird things going on, and he says some shit that really off-puts Rand, and he really starts to get worried about different things about his history. And he's like, none of this is true. I don't know about any of this. You have to be delirious. But this moment where Tam actually comes to him and tells him after the village council meeting, on their way home, that he believed him so hard that he started talking to everybody about what Rand saw. And then he found out that other people also saw this. Well, other young boys, really, like, coming of age boys, and finds out that a number of them have seen them and starts to even believe Rand more. It's one of the parts of the series that I love, because there are way too many series where there'd be a dad or a mom or whatever, and their son would be like, Mummy, I saw a wizard and he was trying to kill me. And then their, like, parent is like, stop telling tales, boy. And you're like, what the fuck? We as the audience know this is true.
It's like every horror story where, like, the kid starts trying to tell mom and dad that they're seeing ghosts and demons and creepy old dead guys and stuff in their house.
And they're like, that's nice, child.
It's just your imagination. It's a new house.
Yeah.
He'll settle in. All was not well.
Yeah. And in this case, horror. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I'm sure that Tam had some doubts just because he didn't see it. because they're, whatever. But it is also nice to think about the fact that, again, by the time we get to our spoiler warning, we already know that Tam is not all that he seems.
Yeah.
And it's very possible
you already start getting hints. Because a lot of the other guys are kind of like, like kids see things all the time. And he's like, well, yeah, but this many children saying the same thing perhaps is worth talking about. And the rest of them are like, okay, we see your point. We'll talk about it at least a little bit. And you're just kind of like, okay.
Yeah. And
if
of course,
nothing else, Tam is very much more cautious than the rest of the town seems to be off of the news. Which generically in like fantasy points that there's more to the person than which is kind of obvious because you've read like 1.5, maybe up to 2 chapters at this point. There's always more to every character.
And it's also definitely like we definitely get the sense that Tam has a knowledge base on weird shit like this. Not completely. I mean, like you're not necessarily standing there being like, hey, Dad, I saw this. And he's like, oh, that's a this. No, he doesn't necessarily know just off your description and whatnot. But, like, again, he knows more than the other people in the village does. And so when he hears about weird stuff, he's not immediately like, weird stuff doesn't happen. He's like, weird stuff happens. Maybe we should keep an eye out.
While the rest of the town is busy.
Which I really appreciate.
Fucking theme. Just some girl boy. But yeah,
so Tam and Rand end up, they end up going back home. And this is, I'm going to pause for just a second on events, just to talk about. I know that from what I have heard, they actually really want to in the show make it so that you don't know which of the boys is important. And like that there's definitely still very much this question of like who is the Dragon Reborn and who is the like really important person that Moiraine is looking for. Cause like, again, while by even the end of the first book, you really realize that all of these boys, and of course, to be completely honest, both Nynaeve and Egwene are all gonna be important. There is still one person that Moiraine is looking for in the Two Rivers. And so they've talked about the fact that they want to keep that as much of a mystery as possible, by the end of the season and whatnot for the show. And this is one of the moments of like Rand and Tam going back to the farm. And then all of this shit going down at the farm is like one of those things I'm not 100% sure. And I've thought about this like pretty significantly. How do you make that happen? Or how do you have all of that happen without kind of just giving away the game? Because, like, this, going back to the farm, was when I was like, Rand is the dragon. Like, Rand is the guy that Moraine's looking for. Rand is the one that this story is about. Again, not that anybody else is less important because of it, not that anybody else doesn't matter in any way, shape, or form, but, like, Rand is the guy that we're following. And so I'm fascinated and like I'm really hoping that they do a really good job with it. And I guess the one way that I can see them doing it, but now we're starting to add things in, and I know that for so much of the series they're going to want to take stuff out because it's just so goddamn long, is if they actually showed the Trollocs and whatnot also attacking the Cawthon farm and the Ibaras.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, that's about the only, like...
But that's the only way that I can see it happening.
I mean, because I don't think they're not going to get rid of Narg.
Yeah, no, there's no way they're getting rid of Narg. I mean, like, this whole scene and the fact that, like, and Tam's hallucinations on the way back and whatnot are so integral to the story.
I could see them getting rid of Tam's hallucinations. If they're trying to keep the mystique, they're going to get rid of Tam's hallucinations and make them as part of a flashback.
Yeah, fair. And I guess, again, now we're just talking about... I guess I should say that they can't get rid of that, or they can't reorder that stuff without really screwing with the timeline. and I really hope that they don't, that we actually do get all of that, sort of in the beginning of the series, but that they somehow figure out a way. What?
I kind of like the idea of having it kind of mystical. Like nobody knows. Like they know that one of these three is the one that's being looked for. But I mean, the thing is like a lot of what we know is it's not right out there in the open, but it's easy extrapolation based off of the way fantasy works.
Correct.
Okay. So you have Rand, and they survive the attack on their farm. And Rand, you go through the whole like, why the fuck do you have this dope ass sword? And you're even more like, oh, there's more to him than meets the eye, and all this other. And then his kind of fever dreams and ramblings.
Althor, more than meets the eye. Tam Althor, soldier in disguise.
But if they're selling it like a lot of the articles and stuff claim, this is a story from Moraine's perspective, which all of us know it's not. Not entirely. There are portions, of course, that are, but the story in general is far from it. If that's the way they're going to go, and they're going to want to try to keep the viewers like wondering who is the Dragon Reborn, then you got to hide that stuff. You got to make it part of flashbacks at points where it's being revealed. I could see one of those like kind of almost cliche main character wrestling with his thoughts and his past and kind of going kind of insane flashbacks to the ramblings, and it's like, oh, it's something he had just written off or something like that. I could see it happening and working out. But I don't know, because if they do it as flashbacks or like almost like a dream sequence or something like that, then something that Rand relives while he's asleep or whatever, then I could kind of see it. If it all like builds and culminates to this, we come to a point at the end of season 1 or end of season 2, like maybe like the mid-season aspect of season 2 or something. I don't know, however they structure it, and Rand has all these flashbacks while he's asleep, and he's tossing and turning and sweating and doing all this stuff, and then his eyes just shoot wide open, and he's just like, I am the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of cliche, but I could see it. I could see it. But it just depends. All of that could have been misdirection. They could have full intention of us knowing who, or easily being able to figure out who is the Dragon Reborn from fairly early on, just like we do when reading the series, and the rest of it could have just been like, well, we're starting this out, we're putting it out, let's put, the most popular actor or actress that we've cast at this time as the person that's going to be at the forefront of the series. Because it's not necessarily a lie, because Moraine is very much at the forefront of a lot of the series. But,
yeah, I mean, though, I would definitely say that again, I'm totally okay with that. But I will say that it definitely feels more like a situation where they would not have said that if it wasn't true.
I mean, there's also the fact that Rafe has said that he wants to stay as close to the series as possible.
Yeah, which again is one of the things where I'm sitting here being like, oh, I don't know how you're going to do this, but I really want to see it.
Either they do try to keep it a secret and they have everything that is actually part of the series as part of like flashbacks or dream sequences or stuff like that, or they don't really hide it, or they maybe have some other, sneaky trick about it. Maybe there's other stuff they're going to do with Matt and Perrin to, make them seem equally as likely or something like that. I mean,
no, and that's the one, as I said, that I like the best. It's just going to be a question of how much are they going to be willing to add to the series when they already have so much that they're going to have to take out.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to sort of
all this happens.
Whatnot.
Yeah. All this happens at Winter Night. Rand, after all of Tam's fever dreams and everything, Rand drags him back in. Nynaeve says she can't help him. They see that the entire town has been ravaged, and half of it at least is burning and destroyed. And you find out that the Trollocs attacked the entire town, not just their farm, and they also attacked some other farms.
But they actually also find out that, well, I guess, no, that's not true. They do attack the town. The only reason that the town comes out unscathed.
I mean, there's 3 main areas that are completely destroyed.
Yeah, well, I was saying that I was going to say, like, it seems they do notice that it seems odd that the Trollocs don't have a pattern. They're not just... that the Trollocs do have a pattern. That they're not just indiscriminately, like, killing, and they're not just indiscriminately, like, running around burning things. Because that's what they would expect from Trollocs. Now, granted, I mean, like, there's also the fact that nobody in the Two Rivers actually expects anything of Trollocs, because they're like, I don't know what the fuck a Trolloc is. There are things that you use to scare children, but not actual real things. But, at the same time, it is also weird to anybody who knows the stories of Trollocs and that they just kill and do all of this different stuff, that they wouldn't be doing that for everything. Now, also, again, they are thwarted by Moraine and Lon as well, because they come bursting out of the inn being like, Trollocs! And people are like, you guys are drunk! And then they start throwing fireballs, and Trollocs start showing up, and people are like, wait, they were right! Fuck!
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that... Because in the actual town, there's only two structures that are like completely, truly decimated. Almost everything is damaged significantly.
Yes.
But there's only two things that are like absolutely demolished. And that's the Cawthon farm or residence and the, the Cawthon's like right there in the town limits. I think it is.
I thought that the Cawthons and the Ibaras were both outside of town.
Oh, they might be. No, the Ibarra is like their stuff is like with the smithy and all that, and I think that's relatively in the town.
That's not the Ibaras.
Oh yeah,
that's
right,
the Luhans.
You're right. I stand corrected. Anyway, it's noticed. I think Lan is the one that brings it back and is like, because they're already watching these three boys, and for them, this is even more of a sign. Like, hey. We had our eyes on like 5 of you. We were leaning to you 3 already, but this pretty much confirms it because, and I think Lan goes through the whole thing like Trollocs don't have tactics unless they're being led and orchestrated and controlled. And though, yes, a lot of shit is broken and destroyed and people are killed, it's only your 3 places that are completely demolished.
Yes.
So that tells us that they were coming for you. But that also tells us that you're the 3 that we've been looking for. By the way, Moraine is an Aes Sedai. If you didn't know by the fireballs you've heard about, that makes me her warder. And we got to like get the fuck out of here. After, of course, Moraine does look after Tam and gets him stable as much as she can. Because she's used a ton of energy all right. And she knows she's got a ton more to use.
Well, and I think she even kind of says that like she can't do it. She couldn't do anymore even if she wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And so she is at the limit of what her powers will help.
For healing,
because I think that he actually gets stabbed with something like
isn't it like well, they talk about it later.
It's a Trolloc blade, which like has bad stuff on it. Like it's not a Morgul blade. It's not one of the Thakandar blades or anything like that, but it is bad. It basically has like poisonish on it.
Yeah.
And so she does save him. She absolutely does get him back to the exactly. And he's now been festering with it for like the entirety of the night because that's how long it's taken Rand to get back because he didn't have a cart. He didn't have anything. He's just dragging his body. Dragging his body on a little like litter thing. But yeah, they don't have Bella. They don't have anything. It's just Rand powered. And so she does stabilize him, but of course he's going to need a lot of recovery time because she has done everything that she can do today. And the rest is up to Tam, unless she was sticking around to go ahead and heal him again tomorrow or the next day or, whatever. But she's not going to be there that long because that's when she tells Rand he's got to get the fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah. But let's keep trying to push through and stay somewhat generic because we have 3 books to get through, and so far we haven't made it past being generous chapter 7 of the first. And we're coming up here close on an hour of recording. And I don't want this to be another 5-parter. I don't think anybody wants a 5-parter on the character. Unless we're wrong, then let us know.
That's fair.
But so all this stuff happens. They wind up leaving Amon's field. They cross Taran Ferry. You get a pretty dope scene there where you see that just because you're held as an Aes Sedai doesn't mean you're above causing personal property damage, creating whirlpools, and destroying essentially rafts to get you across the Terran, the River Terran, I think. Or is it the Terran Ferry River? Yep. Either way, it's in Terran Ferry.
No, it is Terran Ferry because it is the ferry that gets you over the River Terran.
Yeah. So that happens, they're running through, doing all this stuff, noticing odd shapes in the sky at night, but they're not sure what it is. We know later on, of course, what it is. All this stuff pushing through the night, following Elayne and Moiraine's instructions. You get a bunch of little independent little stuff that piques your interest, like you find out that Egwene and Nynaeve have the spark to learn to channel. You essentially find out that Nynaeve already has channeled, and Moiraine pretty much reveals that to her in a very much spot on, almost fortune teller-esque way, or at least it seems to Nynaeve. You get the kind of infamous scene, whether you realize it now or not, that Bella is the only horse that doesn't need to be healed to fatigue. But that's not necessarily surprising, considering that Egwene is riding Bella, and we already know that she can channel. So this carries on. They wind up moving on. Daylight rises. They get the terrible news that there's 5 fists of Trolloc chasing them from behind. They hear more from the west or the east or something. They're trying to cut them off and everything. So a fist of Trolloc is 100 Trolloc. And they're Amon's field was attacked by perhaps a fist, maybe a fist and a half. And there's 5 coming for you. And where there's fist of Trolloc, there's Myrddraal. The Edmund Fielders get their first taste of combat. And
also, by the way, Myrddraal, that's what you saw. That's the Black Rider that you saw. And if you get cornered by one, you're fucked. Have fun.
Yeah. So Matt's doing work with his bow. Rand is, he feels somewhat surprisingly handling Tam's sword, but of course he's pretty much flailing around. And Perrin's doing the same with the half moon axe that he has from the blacksmith shop. But they survive. You get to see Moiraine show off her skills with fire and earth. That buy them some time. They make the decision to go into Shadar Logoth. There's not a ton in there that's important for Rand. There's a ton that's important for other characters. But the biggest thing of importance is Trollocs actually come into Shadar Logoth combined with the threat that is already in Shadar Logoth that we find out is called Mashadar. The party is forced to split up with Rand, Matt, and Tom, who is the Gleeman, of course, from Amon's Field, the one that was in the inn. They wind up being on their own. They find their way onto the Spray, which is a trader ship captained by ye old Bael Doman.
Oh, Bael.
And sets off, or keeps going down the river, upriver, whichever direction it is, the appropriate way towards Whitebridge.
Downriver.
Yeah. It's there that, or while they're on the Spray, that Tom is teaching Rand and Matt, Matt how to juggle, I believe. And Rand how to play the flute, and tells them both that farm boy hands are far too deaf for the harp, so don't fucking touch the harp.
Don't do it.
And they get pretty decent, they're making shows and everything on the Spray, and they get into Whitebridge, and they're doing their thing there. And then, of course, Myrddraal shows up, and it appears that Tom dies to the Myrddraal in exchange for Rand and Matt escaping and heading up the road to Caemlyn, which is ultimately where the last time they talked with Moiraine and company, they were heading to before going to Tar Valon. So they're going little town to town, playing shows and everything literally playing for their supper. Matt's increasingly getting aggravated, and Rand's trying to deal with that along with his own shit. Rand is almost courted by a farm girl, though he doesn't realize it at all. or half doesn't realize it, but she wants to take a ride on that Haramark sword. So you get to see like Rand and them. They're starting to figure out some things about the world. They're relying a lot on the Haramark nature of the blade to either scare people away, which half the time it does. The other half, they're like, "There's no way somebody as young as you has one of those legitimately. You must have stolen it." And then they get into Four Kings, where they've been sleeping in bushes many nights, and Matt's like, "I'm fucking tired of fucking bushes and the fucking rain. Sick and tired of this motherfucking nature out in motherfucking nature." So they find an inn.
That is it. I have had it with this motherfucking rain and this motherfucking nature.
So they go into Four Kings and they're searching inns, and all these inns already have people performing and stuff. And they finally get to an inn called the Dancing Cartman that is run by Samuel Hockey or Hawk, whatever. Hake. Pronounce it for yourself. And then you find out Jack and Storm are the bouncers, and he begrudgingly says,
"It's Hake."
Okay, that makes more sense. I was thinking like the S and sake, and I don't know why I was thinking more like Japanese.
No, it's possible. It's definitely possible. I mean, there are other things like Lan, 100% how I would pronounce that. Lan, not how I would pronounce it.
I refuse to concede. Even if Robert Jordan's ghost showed up in my bedroom and was like, "It's Law," and I'd be like, "Lan, good night. By the way, love everything you did." But so they get there.
I don't even care that the person who invented the format calls it GIF. It's definitely going to be a GIF forever. Oh, fuck that guy.
But
anyway, so this is an incredibly significant scene because
so they do all this thing. They're performing in exchange for room and board for a single night. The room being a storage closet in the very back of the inn that just happens to have barred windows and only one way out. And so they get done with everything. They're like, "All right, we're going to go to bed for the night." One of the bouncers pretty much stands guard, if not at the door, at the end of the hall. And it's very obvious that the innkeeper, who is a skinny innkeeper, thus the whole adage of never trust a skinny innkeeper, that Mr. Hawk is planning. If it's not Mr. Hawk planning it, it's his bouncers, Jack and Strom, that are planning to steal at least the Haramark blade from Rand and Matt. And eventually they hear a knock at the door. They've already tried to bar the door, like put things underneath the door to keep it from opening, like door stoppers and stuff. And then the strange guy that they saw watching them most of the night while they performed is the one that knocks on the door and does the whole, like, "The great Lord will give you rest and come with me, and it's for the better. You think you can run, you can't get anyway." And they're desperately trying to get the fuck out. And magically, out of absolutely nowhere, lightning strikes the wall that the window's on that they're trying to get out of and blows a hole inside of it. And
blows the bars completely off.
Yeah, blinds the shit out of Matt. And they run away. And as they're running, Rand looks back and he can see a figure still there. And of course, he's like, "Yeah, that's Howl Goad." They assume that it's Howl Goad. But they continue on. Rand now playing the part of seeing eye dog for Matt for a while. Until Matt can see again, and pretty much right around the exact same time, Rand himself falls ill. And they lose many more days of travel time because Rand can't really move because he'd be sick. Suddenly he's not sick. And he's super happy and super giddy and adventurous and everything. Once they reach Camelin,
throwing barrels at White Cloaks and
does that happen in Camelin?
So that actually happens in that happens in Camelin before they actually go, or before they meet up with
Moraine and them.
Moraine and everyone. Actually, I think... Does that happen? Or does that happen in... No, it happens in Camelin, because they get there. Or in Bearlawn, that's what I meant, not in Camelin. Bearlawn, which is where they meet with Moraine and whatnot. But it's not in Camelin, they're not there yet. It is,
but the kind of the same thing,
Bearlawn.
Same mindset kind of happens in Camelin again, because he's all like, I'm going to go out and see the city, and I'm going to see the crazy false dragon they've got, and I'm going to climb this wall, and falls in.
Mm-hmm.
Because he wants to see the crazy guy, and Matt's like, leave me alone in my room of emo darkness. You can't trust anyone, Rand. Can I even trust you? But
darkness falls across the land.
Before Rand goes out and all that, of course, you do meet Loyal, the Ogier, who is in the Queen's Blessing, reading books, and he's pretty much staying inside because every time somebody sees anyone larger than normal that looks slightly different, they scream Trolloc, and half the city tramples over itself. So he just stays inside and reads books, which is mostly fine with him because everybody else puts a short handle on their axe.
Yep.
Is it a long handle? Either way.
A long handle on their axe. It is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they're there, and eventually the rest of the company finds its way to Camelin for the most part. Well, no, they do. They do ultimately. There's some other stuff that's had to happen to get part of the company back together because they got themselves arrested by the occult. The White Cloaks. I shouldn't call them the occult. That's dark friend talk.
But that's accurate.
Oh yeah, it's definitely accurate. It's a fucking cult. It's no less a cult than what was the really famous one? Was it Charles Manson?
I don't remember what their name was.
I don't remember what the cult name was. It was all the people that drank the rat poison punch down in like Argentina or some shit.
That was not Charles Manson.
Oh.
Charles Manson
was like... Was the what?
Was Helter Skelter.
I don't even... Anyway, I'm trying to make references to like multiple different things and not understanding what any one of them is in itself.
Apparently not.
Like I've watched the documentaries, I've watched the YouTube videos, I remember the stuff, but after a while everything just kind of combines and it's been a long day. Sue me. But if you sue me, be prepared for the counter suit because I'm all about having more money because you made the wrong decision.
Jonestown is the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. It's basically like their equivalent of Jonestown, but minus the rat poison Kool-Aid, and instead everybody is just a dark friend because they're not them. Yep. Really, a Sith mentality. You're either with us or you're against me.
Only a Sith or a White Cloak deals in absolutes.
Yeah, pretty much. There we go. So they all kind of get back together in Camelin. Rand, of course, in this time meets Elayne and I'm about to throw up even saying his name.
It's Gawain. Jesus Christ. It's not that bad.
It's fucking bad.
He's not that bad.
He's not that bad right now. But and also Galen and Elida and Queen Morghese and Talmanes. So a bunch of people. We get to see Logain and gets a view of some of like the Red Sisters from the White Tower and all this other fun stuff. Before they finally set off, and then Rand and Matt and Perrin finally tell Moraine about some dreams,
and she is annoyed as fuck.
Yeah,
and rightly so.
And like, she doesn't really have that much time.
I told you to tell me.
Why didn't you tell me? Well, because you tried to pay children trackable silver coins in exchange for information. And then you kidnapped us. So we don't exactly trust you.
You know, that's an interesting way to put it, even though it's all true.
Fair fucking argument, honestly.
That's what I said. I said that's a weird way to put it, even though it's all true.
Oh, yeah. I think it's the funniest fucking thing, but So this is where we get introduced to the ways, which gives a plot reason for Loyal to even be there this early.
Correct.
So they go through the ways, and you kind of get introduced to Mosh and Shin and what the ways were and what they are and all that fun stuff. And they make it out in near is it Farmading? Farmading? No, that's not it. Faldara.
Not Formatting, Faldara, yeah.
Yeah. Faldara, and they kind of stop there for a little bit. You get to see that Lan is a lot more than just a warder by the way he's greeted and the conversations they have. That the Shinarans have a ton of respect for the Aes Sedai, and only Lan gets treated better than she does, but barely much so.
Yeah.
Which you gotta admit, could you imagine the first time that happened to him and Moraine's like, but I'm the fucking Aes Sedai, what the shit? Oh, that's right, his whole backstory. Never mind.
Oh yeah,
makes sense.
All of that stuff that Lan had going on. That's right.
Yeah, you got a lot on your shoulders there, buddy. Old Paolo, warder of mine. But they stay there long enough to resupply. And it's Ingtar, right? Yeah, Ingtar tries to take and send troops and stuff with them, but they refuse. They're like, "Hey, it's already going to be hard enough, just us." They go into the blight.
It is not Ingtar.
It's not Ingtar. You're right.
It's Papa.
Yeah.
Uncle?
Name?
I gotta look it up because I'm dying.
Okay, I'm glad we're in the same boat because I was like, I know Ingtar's from there, and that's the name I remember, so Ingtar it is.
Give me 1 second.
It felt wrong as I was saying it. But there's so many names, and we're kind of like pushing through this.
We are, which is good. But Faldara,
clickable links.
Motherfucker. You want? Okay, hold on.
Why are we so bad at this?
Agelmar. Oh my god.
That's it.
It's Agelmar Jagad. Ugh, I am so
Agelmar?
mad at me.
Yeah, well, I'm mad at you. I mean, myself too.
Anyway,
Agelmar, who is the Lord of Faldara?
Yes.
/ ruler of Faldara. Insert appropriate title there.
Yep.
Anyway, tries to send people, Moraine and Lan, and they're like, no, it's better if we keep this. They go further into the Blight because by this time they know that Rand and Mat and Perrin have had dreams of Baalzamon saying that the Dark One wants to destroy the Eye of the World and kill the Serpent of Time, I believe is what he addresses him as. Destroy the Eye of the World, or take the Eye of the World and destroy the Serpent of Time.
Well, he wants to take the Eye of the World and destroy the Wheel of Time.
They said something like, it was like kill the Serpent or something is how they worded it.
Kill the Serpent, destroy the Wheel of Time. Yeah. You are correct. They do talk about killing the Serpent.
And Moraine's like, we might not even be able to find it because I've been there before and no one ever finds it twice, but I'm going with you anyway because fuck superstitions. And just as worms, not like earthworms, but blight worms, are about to overtake them and eat them and nom on their yummy human flesh, they find themselves in... Anyway, they meet the Green Man, who is the guardian of the Eye of the World. And that's where it is beyond the shadow of a doubt confirmed that Rand can indeed channel Saidin, the male half of...
And he actually uses the entirety of the Eye of the World of power to murder Agenor and... Well, murder Agenor. Because Balthamel, right? Balthamel? Balthamel gets murdered by the Green Man, which is great. Because fuck that guy.
But he does more than that. He
gives him a bear hug that turns into a plant hug that turns into a you're dead.
And you're right, it's
bitch.
Balthamel. But Rand does more
than
fantastic. That. Before he even fights Agenor, he magically finds himself at Tarwin's Gap because the Shanarans are going to war with the Trollocs, and there's a massive group of Trollocs and Shadowspawn that are rushing to attack. And Rand pretty much blinks as he's walking, and he's there, standing in the middle of the battlefield, and he takes and just unleashes absolute havoc. And we know it wasn't just a fever dream because here shortly in the next book, when they get back, the Shanarans all tell the tale about how the creator himself,
a man, showed up
in a blaze of light and glory and smote the Shadowspawn armies before they lost nigh a squad of men or something. I don't even know if they suffered one casualty because he was like there as the battle was starting.
They definitely did.
Okay, let's be a lot cooler.
They definitely lost people, but they thought everyone was going to die. And instead, very few of them died because they started the battle, and the battle was being frustrating, and they were starting to lose. And then all of a sudden, the creator, who looks a lot like that farm boy who you showed up with, showed up in Tarwin's Gap.
We're going to forget that part of information. No, it was definitely the creator that showed up because the creator stands with the Shinar.
It's definitely the creator.
But Rand.
Yes. Well, I fucking love that because it reminds me a lot of the fucking Harry Potter thing where like Harry literally goes back in time and
when he thought
conjures his own Patronus at himself. And he's seeing him from across the lake, and he's like, "Nah, that couldn't have been me. That's not possible. It had to be my dad." And it's like, dude, you should know what you look like.
The best part about that is his assumed vision of his dad becomes the memory he uses to create his strongest Patronus. Like he uses that as like a memory of his dad,
which is ridiculous.
To make his own Patronus, and it's like, you literally just use a time turner. You should be able to figure out that it was you, not your dad. But
exactly.
Anyway, so all that happens. Rand blinks and finds himself basically back at the Eye of the World and fights Agenor after being shown images of his mother Carialthor being tortured. We're gonna go with that.
Hurt.
By Myrddraal. And severs Agenor's link that he can see to the Dark One. There's this big black thread coming from the back of him. And Agenor and then they fight over control of the pool of pure Sidene. And Rand throws the final blow because Bothwell pretty much destroys himself to an extent by trying to pull so much of Sidene, and the Green Man finishes the job essentially. I believe one of them draws so heavily that they burn themselves
definitely
out. Or is that Agenor that does it?
It's not either of them at that particular time. Sorry, no. You're right. It is Agenor. It's actually Balthamel. Balthamel definitely just gets killed by the Green Man because the Green Man doesn't like that he's hurting Moraine. Or the other Emmons Fielders, because it's not just Moraine. And so he just kills him. And then Agenor pulls too deeply on the source, basically gets himself burned out, and then Rand takes him out. And then it's actually cutting the thread is Balsamon. That's who he cuts the thread of at that particular time.
Is it?
Definitely happens that way. I'm on.
Okay. I believe
my
you.
memory is good for here
I believe
now.
You. That's.
Because the big thread is definitely Balsamon, and so
makes sense.
Anyway,
Rand loses consciousness, and then wakes up shortly after, and that's where they find out that submerged in what was the Eye of the World, the pool of pure Sidene, was the Horn of Valir, the legendary Dragon's Banner, as well as one of the seals on the Dark One's prison, which is broken when they get to it. So Moraine does her whole the seals are weakening. It's like, nah, shit, one of them's broken in your hand, made of some shit that shouldn't break. because she pretty much says this is made of shit that shouldn't break.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was impossible. This gets stronger the more you eat away at it. I'm like, apparently fucking not entirely. And
Impossible.
yeah, and so the Eye of the World ends with a scene of them back at Faldara. Rand is up on a balcony chatting with... Who the fuck is he chatting with?
Lon.
Yeah, chatting with Lon.
And because they're training.
Because is that where he mentions sheathing the sword to him, or is that the next book?
Yes.
Yes, to which one?
Well, so this is the next book.
I'm talking about where like the Eye of the World ends and Moraine is down in the courtyard with her freaking little pendant on her forehead, and she smiles and is like, the dragon is reborn.
Oh, so yeah, no, that's also still Lon.
I thought he was talking with Egwene.
So it is Lon that he talks to.
Why would I think he's talking to Egwene?
No, because Egwene doesn't actually know that he can channel yet. She doesn't find that out. Oh, no. He does. She does find out. It's I think Matt and Perrin who don't actually find out because they're gone.
Yeah, they don't know yet.
Yeah, but when he comes back to the group after fighting Agenor and Balsamon, Nynaeve and Egwene both find out because Moraine's like, "You channeled, didn't you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then they're like, "No, not our Rand." So yeah, they do know, and so I think you're right. He's talking to Egwene up on the balcony, and he's like still denying it, but he's also like, "I kind of can't deny this." And Moraine's like, "Ha ha ha!
I can deny it no longer. I am small."
But yeah, then we pop into the second book.
Is that how it happened?
Lots of shit happens, and we do learn about sheathing the sword, which becomes an incredibly important tactic that both the people talking about it use at different times in the books. One of them actually happens prior. Yeah. Then we meet the Amerlin Seat, who Rand is terrified of because he thinks that she's going to gentle him, which is pretty solid thought. I mean, he doesn't know that, that probably isn't going to happen, given that he is the dragon, and it seems like maybe some people are smart enough to not do that. But at the same time, he's also like, every man who can channel gets gentled. I'm a man who can channel. I'm getting gentled, so I don't want to be around Aes Sedai anymore. So he leaves. He goes to, or he tries to leave the city. He doesn't actually make it out of the city until he's already met the Amerlin, which he gets brought in front of the Amerlin with Lon, who gives him a bunch of pointers, and he impresses Lon with his stature and stamina and all of that good stuff. And then... sorry, I'm just looking at a couple of things, because I want to make sure that I get this in the right order. Yes, and this is, of course, Great Hunt, so it becomes the... Yes, Cat crosses the motherfucking courtyard.
It's funny that you mentioned Cat, because I just went to refill my drink. Normally I send a message when I do that, but I forgot to.
No worries.
And I was my roommate now has a cat. It scared the shit out of me the other day. And the cat keeps trying to sneak into my room. And as I came back in, the cat disappeared under the bed. So I had to leave the door cracked.
Nice. So
the cat just crossed the living room, I guess.
Sure.
Oh, the cat's coming.
But yeah, so basically Rand is still trying to pretend in front of everybody that he's not a channeler and is just a shepherd from the Two Rivers. Because we haven't gotten to the point where he actually even really totally admits it to himself, even though he's kind of admitted it to himself to a certain extent by now. But this is where everything goes sideways, and the city of Faldara actually gets attacked by white cloaks. Or sorry, not white, Trollocs. Jesus Christ. They're basically the same thing, but they're not. They get attacked by Trollocs, and in the commotion, Padanfane gets released, and the Horn of Valir gets stolen.
And
so now they have
dagger.
to go. Also true.
Because in the meantime,
and so,
the Amerlin and all them did the semi-healing / sealing away thing of the taint from the dagger on Matt.
Yes.
And then the dagger gets stolen. They're like, without the dagger, we can't completely heal him, and Matt will die. And Rand's like, oh no!
Yes, well, and that's the funny part, is that, like, on one hand, they're like, hey, we have a strong feeling that you, the Dragon Reborn, needs to be the one to sound the Horn of Valir. So you should go get it. And then he's like, no, fuck that. Get out of my face. I don't want to do this. I'm literally just going to run away from my duty pretty much the entire time. I don't want any of this. And they're like, oh, also, by the way, your friend's going to die if you don't get the dagger. And he's like, sign me right the fuck up.
Yeah.
If it's for somebody else and not for me, I'm in.
Because it's after all that Suon, the Amerlin, looks at him and is like, you're the Dragon Reborn. And he's like, and they said, I have no humor. You're funny. Oh, wait, you're serious? Nah, go fuck yourself. But I'll help my friend, but go fuck yourself.
Oh, wait, you're serious? Let me laugh even harder. But yeah, so then they go on this journey. It's pretty uneventful, though. Right at first. It's pretty uneventful, though. Rand does get into a little bit of a fight with both Matt and Perrin, as well as basically gets told by Ingtar that Rand is his second in command, which at first you're like, that makes no goddamn sense. But like then you start to really kind of get it later. But at some point, Rand Hurin, whatever his name is. I know how to spell it. I just don't know how to say it. There are a bunch of weird names that I'm going to need the show to tell me. But so Rand, Hurin, and Loyal all end up away from the group.
Ooh.
Because Rand channels them away into a parallel world with a portal stone.
It appears that Rand channels them away. So nobody is sure.
Nobody is sure. That's true. And so Rand and Loyal and Hurin continue the journey to find the Horn of Valir, because Hurin is the one tracking it. And they meet Selene, who is already in love with Rand, and they're like, I don't fucking know.
Yep. Balsamon shows up.
Oh yeah, balls it, dude. So many fucking shits happen.
Fucking certain Heron marked blade, which brands the shit out of one of Rand's. I think it's like in a dream while Rand is in the other world.
That's not until the next book.
No, it's not. It's while they're in the Portal Stone world. Yep, it's in the Great Hunt.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep. But it's in one of the like dreams where Rand is dreaming about Alzamon, and I forget the specifics. I'd have to go to the chapter itself.
Oh no, you're right. It is all in the.
But I think it happens in a dream sequence, and it happens to him in the dream. And it's another instance of Rand being like, "Well, the dream isn't always not real," because he wakes up, finds that there's a heron branded on his palm, and then bandages it to cover it up from everybody else. Like that's not going to make it even more obvious already. Because it's after that eventually that Selene is trying to help guide them to another portal stone to get out of the mirror world, because she wants to go back to. And at no point does anybody sit there and wonder, how the fuck did you get here?
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, they do, but she's so pretty, and so they stop wondering pretty quickly because they're just like, oh, pretty woman.
And Rand, you're so strong, and you're so destined for glory, and you could have it all, and I stand behind you. And Rand's like,
can I stand behind you? Anyway, so they get back to their world, find out that they're actually in front of the horn and go get it. And so they backtrack to get the horn while they're being followed up sort of in this pincer formation by all of the other people, Lord Ingtar and Matt and Perrin and whatnot, who are following.
Because this is where Perrin's like, I can smell violence.
And so...
And Ingtar's like, I won't tell anybody because that's fucking weird,
also,
bro.
We were using a person who could basically smell violence before, so...
They're just like, hey, this random farm boy that showed up with the other farm boys just happens to be able to smell violence. Yeah, he's a thief taker. And everybody is like, oh, okay, yeah, we're
I mean,
we're cool
Ingtar, as long as you're okay with it, we don't give a shit.
Yeah, because we trust you, Ingtar. You'd never do anything to betray us or hurt us in any way. Yeah. The creator is with us. Yeah, I think they're actually like, the creator is with us. He has made a means for us to continue our mission.
And so then Rand pisses Selene off to the point where she leaves. Then they get the horn, and then they get to a town, and then they lose the horn again. And then they meet up with Ingtar and the rest of the group and go, okay, so we had the horn and then we lost it again. And now we actually have to use a portal stone. Oh, yeah, and they meet up with Varen, who's like, why are you here? And then they're like, hey, we need to use a portal stone to go to the other side of the world, basically, to follow Padan Fane, who now has the Horn of Valir and says, come meet me in Falma. And you're like, great. Well, this is stupid.
No, doesn't he say, like, meet me, like, isn't it, again, at, like, Tarwin's Gap or something like that? Where he's like, oh, no, Toman Head.
Toman Head, yeah, which is over by, Falma.
Yeah, you're right.
And so he's like, all right, well, fucking fine. And then Varen's like, all right, cool. Well, the easiest way that we get to Toman Head is by Portal Stone. And I've read books about it. And Rand's like, I ain't using one of those fucking things again. That's shit's bullshit. And she's like, no, we're going. And so then they use the Portal Stone and almost kill everyone.
Well, before that, when they're in Kyrian, where Selene is as well, apparently. And she keeps miraculously disappearing. Rand finds Tom,
that is also true.
Again. And Tom is like, this is where he sees that Tom is alive, and Tom's like, I'm going to stay here. I've got a girlfriend now, and I'm making good money, and this is a good place for a gleeman. And as life does to us, the pattern decides to bend him over and spank him hard.
Yeah, that's definitely how people put it.
That's what I'm gonna say because some part of me decided to be a little more PC about it.
Fair enough.
I don't know why.
Yeah, me either.
Tom gets shafted pretty hard.
Yep.
Because of Rand in multiple ways. There's the Tavir nature there that's going on, but there's also Deus Damar.
Yes.
Where Rand has either burned letters or deliberately kept them without showing that he's opening them. They see Rand visit Tom, and in a bid to try to get at Rand through Tom, they murder Dina.
Yep.
Who is Tom's new girlfriend. And then we see Tom go full Punisher. I almost said Punisher. Punisher.
Ermagerd Punisher.
And straight up, we find out later, not terribly later, but later. I think it's by the next book, if it's not right here and there. No, it's not right here and there. But Tom murks the shit out of people.
Oh yeah,
who are responsible.
And it is definitely strongly suggested, if not outright said, that he just fucking kills King Galdrian.
Yeah. We find that out. More Shotty, we need you in the live chat all the fucking time because you have all the answers. But yeah, that's in Dragon Reborn. When a certain other person meets up with Tom. Well, we'll get to that. Sorry, I keep looking around because the cat's making strange noises in the room. Like not like possessed cat noises, like random like bangs and bumps and stuff. And I'm trying to make sure the cat's not trying to destroy shit.
Sounds perfect.
But yeah, so then we get to they go to the steading because they're like, oh, we're gonna use the way gates. But there's a fucking problem with that, ain't there, buddy? Oh boy, oh Paolo, Daniel.
Yeah, there is. There goddamn is. They open it up and basically Majidar is sitting there waiting for him, being like, I want out, motherfuckers. And they're like, oh, no, you don't. And close it back up. But not before they're scared shitless of the fact that they almost got murdered by the Black Wind.
I mean, you open this thing, you know it's going to be dark, but then the darkness surges out and tries to get out at you to eat your face off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you were scary before, but damn, nature, you scary.
Yeah. Murder hornets. Mashadar. But yeah, and so they... Machin-chin.
He's running for mayor of
My
Chin-chin, if you haven't heard already.
Yeah, no, it's true. But yeah, so they travel away from... Yes, they go to Plan B, which is the Portal Stone.
Yeah.
And they go to Tome and Head, but they don't, because they end up losing a number of months. Because this is where this happens, right? Do I have my order off again?
I believe that's when it happens.
No, because Ingtar's with them when this happens. Yes, this is when Ingtar is with them when this happens. And he almost kills everyone. And they all throw up. All of these hardened soldiers almost die. And they all see all of these different lives. And this is very significant for Rand, because I think this is where he really starts to, realize that he really does have a strong, intense duty to be...
And Morshadi, we did talk about the steading, because we talked about them trying to use the waygate in the steading. And then it's after the waygate doesn't work that they leave the steading and go to a portal stone.
You're right. We didn't talk about actually going and talking to the Ogier.
Yeah.
But it's not actually an incredibly significant event.
Not for Rand's specifically.
Life. Not for Rand, exactly. It is for Loyal. It's incredibly important for Loyal, but it's not actually that important for Rand. But yeah, so they end up using the Portal Stones, and Rand realizes that the Dark One absolutely, without a doubt, 100% crazy... like to an insane degree, thinks or knows, or whatever you want to call it, that Rand al'Thor is the Dragon Reborn. And he sees all of the different ways that his life could have played out, and every single one of them, I think actually every single one of them that he remembers when he wakes up, or when it all finishes, has him dying, and at the end of every single one of them, you just hear Shaitan say, I win again, Luce Theron. And it's so fucking awful.
Yeah.
And so this is like really, again, Rand has basically said that he is recognizing that he is who he is, and that the wheel weaves, and that there's not much he can do about it, and that he's just got to admit it. But like, again, he's still been incredibly
well, he's kind of privately taking like, okay,
yes, but at the same time he's also still basically denying it.
He's like privately like, okay,
and he won't admit it to anybody else. He won't really say anything, blah blah blah. And so this is the point where I think he really just like 100% realizes there is no chance that he can deny this anymore. He fucking knows. And he has a duty, because if he doesn't do this right, the Dark One wins. He's seen it now hundreds of times. And so...
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's why Falma becomes so crucial, because by the time they get there, Falma, of course, has been taken over by the Shanchan, and they sneak into the building where the horn is being kept along, I believe, and they're like, all right, we're going to get it, but the High Lord Turok, who is also a blade master of the Shanchan, discovers them. And thanks to Lan's training, Rand manages to defeat him, and they get away with the horn and the dagger, only to find themselves caught between a rock and a hard place, also known as the White Cloaks and the Shanchan. Also where they discover that Ingtar is like, hey, yeah, I've been a dark friend this whole time, and I hate myself for it, and I want to make up for it. So while you guys escape the city, I'll hold off the Shanchan. And so then it's just... Rand, Matt, and Perrin with the horn and the dagger going, what the fuck do we do? And Matt being like, fuck it, blowing the horn.
Rand isn't actually with them when he blows the horn. He goes back to Falma.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't 100% remember exactly why he goes back to Falma. I think it's just for Egwene. Like, that's the...
I think so.
But like,
because they still haven't had to talk.
Yeah. And so he like goes back to Falma to go ahead and deal with this. And then he ends up in a fight with Balsamon in the sky over the city.
Who he thinks is actually the Dark One.
Correct. And so then we... but yes, Matt blows the horn. Perrin's with him. They have this wonderful exchange, which is one of my favorite parts in the book, which is again why I'm mentioning it, even though it doesn't really have anything to do with Rand. While Rand is doing this whole thing, Rand does use the technique of sheathing the sword and receives a wound that will never heal. But in doing so, he does actually destroy Balsamon in the sky over the city, basically, to literally everyone's observation.
And while Balsamon melts the Heron Mark blade, which by this time we have found it is actually a power wrought blade.
Yes.
And the heat of melting it brands Rand's other hand with the Heron, thus fulfilling a prophecy that I believe is quoted kind of towards the end of the book. Twice and twice he shall be marked.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, Rand feels that he has defeated the Dark One and openly proclaims himself victorious and the Dragon Reborn. And we also get, with the Heroes of the Horn called back to fight, a little bit of the importance of the Dragon Banner, because they're like, the banner is here, or something's wrong, we must follow it, raise the banner, or we can't do anything kind of deal.
Basically. And this is one of those moments where it's really nice, because again, Matt and Perrin have all of the tools that they need. Because they just like handed all, like Rand was just like, here's all the shit. And then I'm going back for Egwene. And then Perrin and Matt are just standing there being like, okay. And then they blow the horn and they're like, where's the banner? We need the banner. And they're like, oh, you mean this banner? And fucking pull it out. It's great.
Yeah. And you get the whole like scene of when the banner advances, the Heroes of the Horn's armies advance. When it falls back, they fall back. But it's also when Rand is winning or has the edge on Balsamon, they're advancing when he's losing.
Correct.
They fall back, and ultimately the Heroes of the Horn run the Shanchan out of Falma, thus liberating the city, as far as we can tell.
Mm-hmm.
And is it in this book that Min finds him, or is that in Dragon Reborn?
Nope, that's Dragon Reborn in this book. She finds him. She brings him back to go ahead and nurse him back to health. and Celine shows up and says, "Take care of him, bitch."
Yeah. You can take care of him for now, but he always has been and always will be mine. Whoa, disappear in the darkness.
Basically.
And Min's like, okay, just not going to mention that to anybody at all.
Yep. Never going to talk about this again.
Yeah. And so ends the Great Hunt.
Yep.
And looking at time.
Yeah, I think this is actually a good time.
Yeah. Because the rough part about going through Rand's character and the events that happen to him is that most of the book revolves around, or most of the series revolves around him. So going through Rand is pretty much like going through the whole series.
Yep.
So it's like all the book reviews we've done specifically focusing on Rand at one time.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that's important to the story that just revolves around Rand that like there's not a ton that we can skip over. And the those have been listening to us live and brought up stuff, and you guys will hear it in the episode when we're kind of like, yeah, we know that happened, but we're not talking about it because it's not necessarily important for Rand. We'll know that we're not necessarily going super deep. Like we probably went deeper into Eye of the World than we really needed to, but we also don't want to leave details out, but there's like the more minute details and stuff that we all enjoy reading about and talking about that we're going to kind of have to leave out if we're going to ever get through Rand.
Correct.
Which is essentially getting through 14 books in a very abbreviated manner.
Correct. But it is true that we will be able to skip over, and this is going to be a little bit of a spoiler warning, just in case you haven't gone ahead and read a lot
Spoiler
into
warning.
the later. This is going to be a spoiler warning for everything, just for my next comment. So 10 seconds from now, it's going to be fine for you to listen again. But there are like 2 giant books in the slog that don't have hardly anything that Rand does. So we'll be able to kind of skip those.
Yeah.
But otherwise, there is pretty much Rand in every other part of the books. So,
Guys, you are back. Spoiler safe for the original spoiler warning.
Indeed.
Now, just in case you were listening for that. But
yeah. Sorry. You are back. You are safe. You are all good. Just for us to be able to say, hey, guys, definitely this is going to be a long series, and we know that we will probably go ahead and
we'll probably break this up. Probably won't be
exactly.
Yeah, you probably won't. Next week probably won't be Rand part 2. It'll probably be another topic because it's one of those things, right, where because of reasons we haven't talked about yet, I really on a personal level resonate so much with Rand.
Correct.
And there's plenty of people that do that for many of them the same reasons, many of them different reasons, all of that fun stuff. But there's also plenty of people that can't stand Rand. And if I'm, from me being honest, and I wasn't even there for every episode, talking about Elayne for 5 weeks straight was kind of tedious. I don't want to talk about Rand for 5, 6, 7 weeks straight. So we'll probably break it up. It'll kind of spread it out. You guys will get other things in between. We've got a couple other ideas in the work, and by couple, I mean at least 2.
Correct. Plus, we've got other things that are exciting that have already been recorded, and other things that are exciting that have yet to be recorded, and whatnot.
Yeah. And those will most likely be released. Well, you'll know where and how they're released when they are, because that's not a discussion I've had.
Correct.
With my podcast compatriots, and I don't want to make statements that they're not going to enjoy or appreciate. We try to communicate before we do things. We learned our lessons from reading The Wheel of Time.
Yep.
Just talk.
Just talk.
Just
communication is key.
Talk. But yeah, so I know we glossed over a lot of the finer details. Please do try to keep in mind that, of course, this was an emphasis on Rand and talking about Rand's life.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, we could say that if we were doing a character study, that we were talking more about like the major things that impacted his life, and it'd probably be a shorter series. But with these, we like going through their history and everything, and talking about the events that made them. Because without the events that made them, some of the stuff that happens to them that they do doesn't make nearly as much sense as it would. And there's also the idea that at some point in the future, people that are watching the series, when they get to these points, may be looking for this kind of stuff, or watching the TV show. I mean, you can watch the series, put it on your bookcase and stare at it. That's fine with me.
Yeah. I regularly do.
But yeah. But this could be something that's kind of cool for them, where they're also getting like reminders of things that have happened. Obviously, once the series comes out, if we're doing stuff, we'll probably also include like spoiler warnings that include currently released episodes of the show at the time of the recording.
Yes,
that seems only fair to do. Like if you haven't read books 1 and 2, or you haven't watched through the end of season 1, whatever it winds up being. I'm not saying that that's what it's going to be because
we don't know yet, but
we'll include that in the future too for people that are watching the series and not just watching the TV series, not just reading the book series. I'm going to tongue tie over that every day of my life.
It's all good.
But yeah, so we thought we'd get through The Dragon Reborn. We only made it through the end of The Great Hunt. Blame ran for being, of the main characters, the main character, where so much happens around.
Correct.
I mean, realistically, we could probably talk just as long about a lot of the other characters. I don't want to say most. That's over 2,600.
But at least a few of them. Yeah.
At least a good few of them. But yeah, so what were some of your favorite or most hated Rand events from Eye of the World and The Great Hunt? You can tweet it at us. You can email it to us if you don't want everybody else to see it. Come and hop in the Discord and have the conversation there. It's fun. There is an open chat room, voice chat room or channel in the Discord for people that want to come and talk. I know the Will Reads is pretty popular for having everybody come in and chat, and so is the Dusty Will with the CouchCon channel they have there. If you guys wanted to do the same thing here, by all means, invite your friends. You're free to use the common room voice chat and talk about whatever you want. There's an associated text channel that you guys can type back and forth. Feel free, use it. This is all of our homes on Discord. And as long as it is within the realms of reasonable taste, use it. It's there for everybody's enjoyment. And you never know, one or all of us might pop in from time to time.
True.
It kind of depends on our availability. I know I've popped in on some. Josh has popped in a couple. I think, Daniel, you've popped in at least 1 or 2 times when people.
I think I've actually only been to one, but I've definitely been to one and I had a really good time. So definitely, if it happens more often and we schedule it a little bit more of like an actual thing rather than just like, are we going to do this now? Are we going to do this in like 30 minutes kind of thing? Then I would definitely pop into more.
Yeah. I mean, Dusty Wills is kind of easy because, it's always following their live stream and there's a lot of people that want to talk because that's right after it.
Yeah.
Ours is a lot more random because, right now are moving henceforth. The live recording episodes are Patreon only.
Henceforth.
We felt that through the end of July was a good point to make the transition to both do justice to the efforts we said we had to want to make something available while COVID is going on, but also to do justice to the people that either are willing to or able to go above and beyond and help support the podcast and the stuff we do here.
Yes.
Because all of the money that you guys contribute to us in the endeavor here, they can ultimately help us do more podcast stuff. Sorry, I got distracted by the Kyrian haircut.
Everyone did.
Yeah, I think everybody did.
But yeah, but definitely let us know how we're doing. If there are things that you would like us to be doing, all of that good stuff. We thrive on feedback, and you can do it any of the different ways, whether it be the ones that Andrew's already mentioned. We also do really, really, really appreciate reviews. They don't need to be good. They don't need to be, glowing. But they do help us improve, as well as help all of that wonderful, the wonderful, what's it called? The stuff that gets us out there. I don't remember what it's called.
Social media?
It gets more people to see stuff.
Exposure?
That's what exposure. That exactly. Bingo. That is the word that I was looking for. But yeah, so that helps us out a lot. Again, both in exposure as well as us just knowing what you guys would like to hear and such, because we definitely do this show for us. It's definitely super fun. We love talking about the series. We love talking to each other, all of that different stuff. But in the end, we also would really love to hear what you think about it. And there are definitely things that we could change pretty easily while also still enjoying what we talk about and each other. While also giving you guys what you want. So if there's anything along those lines, please let us know. Also, as we already mentioned, this is now a Patreon benefit. So if you have anybody who is in the Discord or any other Discords or anything along those lines that is really interested in listening live, we'd love to have them. It's $1 a month is the minimum to go ahead and get this, which I know all of you already know, but is true. Also, if you are looking for swag, I think at this point, at the end of this episode, we very well may actually owe More Shoddy some swag. But if you want to get your own swag, we do have a page on Spreadshirt that you can go ahead and find either through our Podbean links or just going there and searching it up. We have some really fun stuff on there. It's actually super enjoyable. And we will definitely be adding to that as things come up in the podcast, because we do want to make it a fun place to get stuff, as well as, all of the stuff on our shop to be somewhat meaningful. Because we do a show here and fun references are fun.
And it's more than just our swag. There's also the all but official Dragonsworn swag.
Correct. Yes.
As well.
That is also true.
So we can't claim it official because that's an overall fandom name.
Yep.
But we did kind of start and finish, run the bracket.
Exactly.
And do all that. So we're going to claim pseudo official Dragonsworn
pseudo
swag. And if you guys have ideas for other designs and stuff that you'd like to see, I think it'd be dope if we did a competition for like new designs for Dragonsworn swag. Keeping it a design by the fandom for the fandom, and literally all we have to do is upload the design and we can find it on stuff, or you can find it on merch if you want a different style Dragonsworn swag. And all the stuff is already pretty customizable. You can put like names and words on most of it. Yep. I wish you can make some of the stuff bigger on some of the merch, but Spreadshirt has to have restrictions. There's only so
much that you can do.
Yeah, they have to have restrictions so that they can maintain their status for printing and all.
Yes, and their quality.
Yeah, it's good quality though.
It is, yeah. But it gets harder to go ahead and do higher quality stuff when you have so many like, oh yeah, no, you can do anything you want, and we don't have this stuff to actually make that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, dude. The t-shirt and the polo shirt that I got from them with our stuff on it, it's I've had it for 2 or 3 months and it's holding up very well. Like the shirt, if it shrunk at all, was very minimal. Trust me, I'd noticed. I'm a fat guy.
Aww.
And I don't think the polo really shrunk at all. If it did, it's not noticeable. So it's good. It's good shit, y'all.
Yeah, same. And I will say that definitely for me, even more important than the shrinkage is definitely the design on it hasn't even like started flaking or faded or doing anything like that, which is really good.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So you can find all this stuff. It's out there. And if you want a one-stop shop, of course, just head over to blacktowerpod.podbean.com. And the links for everything are there along with our episodes. So, yeah. if there ever does come out a BTP logoized condom, we will not be responsible for any children you have while using said contraceptive.
Correct.
So
100%.
It's going to be a disclaimer printed on fine print on the other side of the condom.
And for those of you who are listening to this not live and not looking at the live chat, we had a request for a condom that said hashtag spoiler condom, which is awesome, and I'm super down. But that's why we have to put out that disclaimer there, because it's very important that everybody knows we are not
paying for your
responsible.
babies. I don't have that kind of coin. I don't know how much money you think we're making off of Robert Jordan's legacy, to quote comments on Nablus' videos.
Right.
It's completely sarcastic.
Yes.
In case you haven't seen the comments, like it was a whole troll thing.
There are some things.
I mean, the person was serious when they posted it, but it was a troll thing for all of us in the content creator community. So
exactly.
But anyway, enough of the promos, enough of the ramblings. You've already been listening to us for quite a while talking about maybe not your favorite ever character from the series. But next week, we'll be back with something complete. Well, no, I can't say completely different because it'll still be Wheel of Time, but it won't be a Rand Part 2 episode unless crazy things happen.
Wait for
we
that.
Literally can't swing anything. But we're going to kind of break up these episodes. And then once we're done with Rand, you guys know what's coming. Eventually, there'll be an episode where we talk all about the nature of the relationship between Rand,
and
Min, Aviendha, and Elayne. Yeah, the dragon and the dragon riders.
Yep.
But that, I think, will do it for this episode.
Correct.
So, for those of us here at the Black Tower Podcast, I have been Andrew.
And I have been Daniel. And Josh is with us here in spirit and should be back later on. But good morning, everybody. I hope that it's a great morning. I hope that you're enjoying yourself. And in case we don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.